Okay, welcome to Chem 3. We'll get started here in just a second. So a reminder that please have your cameras enabled and all that good stuff. Just let everybody in. I suppose that'd be the right thing to do. All right. Again, we'll get started here in just a second. Okay, welcome to Chem 3. Hopefully everybody could see what's on the screen and hear me. A couple of things before we get started, just a couple of reminders that hopefully you saw on those announcements. Again, this class really is, a face-to-face class. So they are requiring, again, for this class and pretty much all classes here in chemistry, that your cameras be on. You also have a computer with a webcam, obviously, and a microphone in case we need to talk or you need to talk and stuff like that. So again, that's not really sort of an optional thing for this class here at Saddleback in terms of the way they're running these classes. So you do need to have that equipment, and it does need to be on during lecture and lab and all that good stuff, unless obviously I say it's okay, you could kill the cameras or whatever you want to do. With that being said, again, I did post up some Saddleback sort of virtual backgrounds if you want to use those or anything like that. But do keep that in mind. You do need to sort of have those guys enabled for this class. A couple of things, if you've used Zoom before, which I assume probably most of you have at this point, maybe if you went to class last semester or not, or over the summer. But this is how we're going to be doing pretty much all of our lectures and our labs will be done through this Zoom session here. There'll be a separate sort of link for both the lecture component and also the lab component. So hopefully again on our Canvas side, and we'll take a peek at it in just a bit, that you saw the spot there where there is a module basically just for links, and those will be updated obviously every day that we have lecture and lab. So there'll be a new link in there. So it's just a central sort of location that you could go to, find sort of the invitation, click on it, and you should be good to go in terms of logging in and all that good stuff. Now, a couple other things here. Just letting some people in. First day, got some emails that like, hey, Zoom is crashing because everybody's on there at once, which seems like a great idea. So hopefully not too bad. Looks like everybody was able to get in. So that's good. So this is, again, Chem 3, just to make sure everybody's in the right spot. And my name is Mr. Efron. I'll be your instructor for both, obviously, the lecture and the lab and the whole entire show. So I'll obviously be your instructor. Other couple important things. Usually, again, we'll be lecturing this way. Obviously, hopefully you can see the screen of what I'm sharing now, and you'll be able to see, obviously, the lectures as we're doing it and as we're going through. So usually during lecture, what I typically do is there's a chat box wherever it may be on your screen. You usually might end up underneath the participants sort of window and stuff like that. But there is a chat box, so anytime that you do have questions, that might be the best way to maybe ask your questions. I'll be happy to sort of read them and then obviously answer any questions that you have. In addition, so you don't have to hear me call roll every day. When you get here, what I'd like you to do is just type here in the chat box. Obviously, everybody's name. Hopefully you're logged in with your right name, and just in case your right name doesn't appear, maybe put your name next to it. But so for roll, if you want to do that now, just to make sure everybody can find it, go ahead, type here. and that'll serve as roles, so I don't have to call everybody's name individually. And again, every time we come to lecture or lab, just make that sort of the first thing that you do is sort of type in here into the chat box. You can just obviously type it when you get here and stuff like that. All right, so welcome. It's felt like summer went very quickly for me. I don't know about you, but I taught summer school, so I think I just finished the end of last week, so it wasn't much of a break, but hopefully you had a little bit longer of a break. So we're just gonna go through the syllabus here, just make sure everybody's on the same page here for lecture, and hopefully we'll get into maybe a little bit of lecturing. If not, obviously we'll get into some of that stuff maybe in lab today as well, since there's not too much going on in terms of the lab. But I did want to kind of show you some stuff, go through the syllabus again, make sure everybody understands sort of the idea here of what's going to sort of take place, what the expectations are of this class, and everything like that. So again, at this point, you are muted, your microphones and stuff like that. If you do have a question, maybe use the chat box. And again, like I said, I'll be happy to answer your question, even if I maybe have moved on. I'll be happy to go back and answer your questions and stuff like that. So why don't we go through sort of the syllabus here. And again, all this should now be available up on our Canvas site. So if you go to our Canvas site, which I'll show you here in just a second as well, you should be able to find all these documents and everything, and obviously read it for yourself if you need. So obviously, like I said, this is Chem 3. It is emergency internet, and it is the fall 2020 semester. There's my name. Again, Mr. Efron is fine, Professor Efron, whatever you like to call me. Not the first name perhaps, but your Mr. Efron is perfectly fine. If you need to reach me, obviously this is the best way to reach me, which would be my email address, which is just my first letter and my last name there at saddleback.edu. I do check my email really regularly throughout the day, multiple times throughout the day, even into the night and stuff like that. So if you do have a question about something, feel free to send me an email. I definitely will get back to you. Maybe not instantly or anything like that. I do teach like 4 or 5 classes in the semester. So, you know, if I'm not with you, I'm probably teaching somewhere else, probably sitting here somewhere else. But I will get back to you. You know, I do try to check all my sort of emails, you know, all at once. So I do check pretty out throughout the day and even into the late evening and morning and stuff like that. So, you know, I should get back to you pretty quickly. Again, really the best way to meet or to get your questions asked. If you have any questions on anything, that could be just general questions about the class, specific questions, maybe you're working on something, you're maybe stuck on how to do something, you could definitely email me. What I would say is this, that if it is something specific like a homework problem or something of that nature, yes, Canvas is a good way to meshes as well. I get those as well. So you could definitely go through Canvas as well as another way. You could use your inbox, I think, or your little message center there. And I definitely get those messages through Canvas. They come right to my email. So when I'm checking it, I see those as well. So that's a very good place as well to do that. And like I said, if it's something specific, maybe that you're working on, you know, if you say like, hey, I need help with number 2 or something like that, I obviously don't carry my book with me. I don't even know where my book is, to be honest with you. I might have one somewhere, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so you could do whatever you need to send me. By the way, also in terms of the chat, you can send a private chat just to me. So if you look at the chat box, if you do the click down menu, it'll say, like, you can pick the person you want to send it to, which should be me, and you can send a private chat message. So again, just some future reference, if there's any messages that you don't want everybody to see, make sure that you do send it privately to me. Again, if you send it to everybody, everybody will be able to see it as well. So just keep that in mind when you're sending chat messages. And again, like I said, if it's something specific, you know, just type into the email a little bit of information about the problem. I'll be happy to read it and sort of respond to you right there instead of having to find what number 3 is. Obviously, if there's something maybe you need more help with or something like that, or you feel like you need more of a FaceTime type of situation, we can do some type of Zoom appointment, by appointment only, obviously. We could set up some type of meeting like that if you do feel like you need some help. Again, I'll remind you though that I do teach, like I said, 4 or 5 classes. So there's not a lot of empty space, but we can find something maybe before a class starts or something like that. We can meet for a little bit if you do need help, maybe more in person and stuff like that. So lecture is Monday and Wednesday, 10:30 to 11:45 here again through this meeting link. And they cut out 5 minutes of this class than they used to be. So I guess we get a longer break now going into lab. So we go 10:30 to 11:45, then we'll take like a 15-minute break. We will have lab next, starting at 12 o'clock to 1:15 on both days. And again, that will be a second sort of link, if you will, in terms of the lab meeting. So there will be 2 distinct links. And the reason for that really is a couple of things. Obviously, that way we could break it up. But secondly, most likely the lectures, and by the way, the lectures are being recorded. All of our Zoom meetings, I think, will be recorded. And some of them will be posted for you to review, again, as a courtesy to sort of review the lecture if you need to. So that's just an easier way to kind of break it up, less editing and stuff like that, for those type of things. So a reminder as well that this class is being recorded, and any interactions that you do either in the chat box or any of that type of stuff, please do it sort of respectfully to me, you, everybody else. Please don't do anything that's offensive to anybody or anything like that. That's going to get you kicked out of the class. So just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that it will be recorded. My thought is, in terms of recording, is it usually will only record the person that is speaking. So for the most part, I believe that will be me most of the time. So again, if you do use your microphone at some point, it will probably flash you up there if you do speak, and you may be part of that recording. But if my understanding is correct, I believe it just sort of records the active speaker. So probably 99% of the time, I'm going to be doing the most of the active speaking, probably in lecture and stuff like that. So it'll probably just record me, but there is a potential, obviously, if you kind of use your microphone or something like that, you may get recorded or be part of that recording. Any questions on that? We're going to talk about tutoring. I think there's a question about, is there any type of tutoring? I haven't heard exactly here, but the last that I heard in terms of tutoring in general was they were trying to sort of get that together for chemistry, and they were going to do some type of online tutoring. They haven't fully decided. I think that was last week I heard something about it. They haven't fully decided how the online tutoring was going to work, if it was going to be through some type of Zoom type of meeting, or they're going to use some other type of software and stuff like that. So I do anticipate that there will be some type of online tutoring for chemistry. Again, unfortunately, I don't have really the specifics of how it may actually transpire, but my guess, it definitely will be online, and it may be something, like what we're doing here. They might just schedule maybe a Zoom meeting or something like that. Or I think there was some other type of software they were thinking about maybe using for that. All right, so a couple of things about the course as well. It is not optional to come, so you are required to come to both the lecture and the lab meetings every day as it is scheduled. This class is basically going to be taught as an in-person class, face-to-face, just like you were coming to campus and taking the class in person. So if you're coming to campus and to take the class, you would be expected to show up every lecture and every lab, and it's the same sort of situation as to how they want to run these classes here. So it is not technically an online class where you could kind of work at your own pace, do things at your own pace. It is just like a regular class. If you were coming, to campus to take it, it would basically only really occur during our scheduled times. So pretty much 99.99% of everything that we do, will essentially be during its scheduled times. That includes all quizzes, that includes all exams, that includes also lab reports. You're also required as well, just like if you were in person, to remain in lab the entire time, and they make you do that at the school. When you take the actual lab in person, you are required to stay the entire lab period. Even if you finish everything before or not, you do have to find something else to sort of work on for that time period. So you do have to do that. There is going to be obviously an attendance sort of policy, just like a normal class. If you miss too much of the scheduled time, you will be dropped from the course. So again, that's a very important sort of distinction. Sometimes people think it's online class. Don't have to show up. I kind of can roll through however I feel, whenever I want to turn things in. But just like a regular class, like I said, there will be due dates, there will be due times. If things are not turned in within those windows, it will still be considered late, just like it would be obviously in an in-person class. Now, in terms of this class, this is Chem 3, so this is typically the class that everybody takes on their way to going to take Chem 1A or Chem 1B. This is not the class really for usually health majors or like nursing and that type of stuff. That is, I wish I could tell you the number there. I think it's 108, 106, something like that is the class here. So this is the one typically that you take as sort of a pre-chemistry class. All in the way to your next goal would be to take Chem 1A and Chem 1B in the sort of sequence of a year after this by taking this class. And that means that we do cover a wide variety of topics in here. We do cover everything from measurements to nomenclature to chemical reactions, stoichiometry, acids and bases, a little bit about equilibrium at the end, gases and everything like that. So if you do really well in here, it should hopefully prepare you really well for 1A. I won't kid you, pretty much 1A is kind of the same topics. But you do go into a little bit more detail when you do get into 1A and stuff like that. So if you do really well in here, sort of obviously takes the class seriously, which I hope you would, it should really prepare you really well for 1A. And that's really sort of the goal of this class, is to get you really prepared in 1A. Because when you do take 1A, they're going to assume that you know a lot of this stuff and that you've seen a lot of this stuff, and they're not going to want to have to sort of teach you some of this stuff again. So, you know, this is sort of the progression of this class into that sort of 1A, 1B combination. So you do want to make sure that you do obviously learn stuff in here, and we do cover a lot of material, which will be very helpful as you continue on. Let's talk a little bit about the course materials that you need. So again, let's just be clear about sort of the stuff that you need for this class, and there's usually a lot of confusion on it. So I'm going to explain it sort of right now, and hopefully it will help. First off, there is actually a textbook for this class, and this class textbook is Introductory Chemistry, a Foundation, and that's the 9th edition by Zumdahl and DeCoste. Now, that's the actual textbook name. With the textbook, you do need 2 different access codes. So not just one, but 2 different access codes. One is for OWL2, and OWL is basically online homework. So OWL is basically like you would normally be assigned textbook problems at the back of each chapter. So for each chapter, there's basically homework problems, very similar to like the ones you find in the actual textbook. But it's just done online. So that is what OWL is. It's equivalent to opening up your textbook and doing end of chapter problems, okay? So that is one access code that you need, and access to OWL. The second one that you need is one that's called Lab Skills Pre-Labs. Now what that is also an online code, and it's a separate code, and that is for the actual lab part of the class. And in the lab part of the class, if you've ever maybe taken a lab class before or done any type of experiments like that, there typically are what are called pre-lab questions. And these are questions that are obviously based on the experiment you're doing that week or that day. And obviously there's things you should be able to answer from reading the experiment and sort of understanding the experiment. So the pre-lab one is basically like pre-lab questions, which are also done online. So you do need access to that as well. So if you choose, and I think the school bookstore has basically 2 options, if I remember correctly, but I believe the school bookstore has an option where you could buy the actual textbook and the 2 access codes bundled together. So it'll be like the textbook and the 2 access codes bundled together. They also sell a second option, I think, at the bookstore, which is called Cengage Unlimited. which you could get through the bookstore, or you could get through that link that I posted up on our Canvas site the other last week, I think. What Cengage Unlimited is basically through the publisher. So Cengage is the publisher of this textbook. So Cengage Unlimited is a service, I believe, that you could sign up for, and it's sort of changed over the years, but now I think you could sign up for it for a sort of specific window of time. So I think you could do like 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years or something like that. And what Cengage Unlimited gives you is access to not only our textbook, which would be part of it, and the actual access codes that you need, like the one for the homework and the one for the pre-labs, but it gives you access to I believe every book that they publish, basically. So for example, if you're taking maybe a math class that uses a book from Cengage, it may be more cost efficient for you to do the Cengage Unlimited, because it will probably give you access to everything you need for our chemistry class and perhaps everything you need for your math class as well. So that's what Cengage Unlimited is. It basically gives you access, I believe, to all of the Cengage sort of materials, the textbooks, access to things like OWL and all that sort of bundled together for one price. And again, I believe they now do it based on time period. So again, I think you could do maybe like a 6 months or 6 months, year, 2 years, something like that. Now, when you want to think about how you want to get the material, you should think about maybe what might be best for you in terms of cost. If this happens to be the only chemistry class you're taking and you're not using Cengage in any classes, other classes, or you're not using it for any other classes or plan on using it in any future semesters, then maybe the best thing would be to buy the book and the 2 access codes bundled together. If you're going to use Cengage now and you're maybe going to use it and you plan on taking Chem 1A and Chem 1B, Chem 1A and Chem 1B also, unless something drastically changes, which it can happen, but we've been using this now for a while. Chem 1A and Chem 1B will also use Cengage products. So again, unless something drastically changes, which it could happen, but I don't anticipate it. But unfortunately, no guarantee. But if you plan on taking 1A and 1B next, you may want to go with the unlimited, maybe for a longer period of time sort of subscription. And that might tie you through 1A and 1B if you need to, or at least 1A and stuff like that. So again, the 2 differences is, and I think really the only place you could find the bundled one, I think I saw it on our bookstore website, was that, yeah, so again, they do have some different sort of time periods in terms of the Cengage Unlimited. You want to, again, pick whatever will kind of work best for you in terms of price and all that. So that's the difference in terms of the 2 things. One is like a regular textbook and the 2 access codes, which you punch in the access codes. The other, which is the Cengage Unlimited, gives you access to everything you need for our class. And again, if you happen to be taking another class that uses some type of Cengage product, you probably would have access to that as well. Any questions on sort of the book and the material and all that kind of stuff? So, and maybe a little bit later today, I'll show you some of that stuff when we get through sort of the syllabus and all that, what all that stuff sort of looks like online. Now, in terms of the lab, you do, in terms of the lab, you have a couple of options really for that as well. All the experiments are pretty much available to you online. You could get it through that website that's on the screen right here. You could also find all the experiments in our Canvas site as well. They're basically PDF files, so you could take them, you could print them out, you could fill them out, and then you'll obviously upload them and everything like that. Now, if you would rather not sort of print out all the individual labs, so I think there's 24 or 25 different labs we're going to do in the semester here. You do have the option to buy a sort of pre-printed lab manual if you want. It's from the Office Max, I believe, on the next street over from school. I think it's Alicia, I think is that street over there. And I did send out an announcement in regards to that. If you choose to get that one, I think it's unbound, sort of 3-hole punch type of lab manual. You can order from them, but you do need to follow the instructions in that announcement that I sent out, which means you do need to email them first. And I think it usually takes 48 hours or something like that for them to get that for you, and then you could go pick them up. So you can't just walk into that Office Max and go, hey, I want my lab manual. You do have to go through sort of the instructions and order it through email and stuff like that. So that's another option. Again, if maybe you don't have access to a printer or something like that, or you don't want to print them all or that, and you just want it all kind of done for you. I think at last count, I think it was only like maybe 7 and change, maybe. I think that's what somebody said. So, you know, it's not too expensive. You sort of wanted a pre-printed one. You don't have to worry about sort of printing it yourself. Again, that's an option for you. But please follow the instructions that's in the announcement as to how to sort of obtain that. Obviously, you need a non-programmable scientific calculator, so your basic calculator will work. Obviously, a Saddleback email or an IVC email if you happen to be an IVC student. And again, that's really important to make sure that you check that, because everything obviously is going to go through Canvas, and pretty much everything's going to go to those emails. I would assume that's the email associated with it. Laboratory work, yes, you need eye goggles at home. I'm just kidding. In case something bad happens, you put goggles on and stuff like that. I just felt like I should leave it in. It felt wrong to have a chemistry class without telling you should have goggles and proper shoes and all that good stuff. So obviously we won't be doing any home experiments. You won't be getting anything in the mail to mix. That would be kind of cool though, maybe. But if you like the look, you could wear your goggles there in lab, you know, make you feel safer and all that good stuff. Probably access to a printer would be good as well. You know, there's going to be a lot of stuff, obviously, that's going to be sort of PDF files and those type of things that you might want to print and then upload. It probably would be the easiest sort of move for you. You know, if you do have the ability to sort of write on a PDF with a tablet or something like that, it should be okay, but it has to be handwritten. Yeah. So, you know, if you don't have access to any of that, obviously you can take just regular paper and sort of write, you know, everything down that you need and stuff like that. So, you know, the easiest would be probably to print these things and sort of fill them out and upload them. But whatever works for you. But things do have to be sort of handwritten like you would be in person, and not just everything typed and stuff like that. So obviously, as I mentioned before, this is emergency internet. So you do need obviously a computer equipped with a webcam and also a microphone. Again, there will be times throughout the semester where you may have to talk, or we need to talk or something like that. So you have that ability to do that. In addition, you'll need it for obviously test proctoring and stuff of that nature. So, and you, again, as I mentioned at the beginning here, you are required to keep that camera part on and also your microphone available in case I ask you to say something or talk or something like that. So please keep that in mind. And as we talked about before, obviously keep in mind of being respectful to others, keep in mind of what's in your camera view and all that kind of stuff. Yes. So we don't have any issues with that. So here's a little thing again about being emergency internet, and a lot of it is sort of what we've just sort of talked about here. So I'll just kind of highlight the important parts. Again, this is still considered a in-person, face-to-face class. There is still an attendance policy. And again, if you miss more than like 6 hours of class, the scheduled time, you will be dropped from the course. You're expected to come to every lecture and lab meeting on time and remain the entire time unless you're obviously dismissed earlier. And obviously any type of language and that type of stuff, you do need to be respectful of others and nothing offensive, both video, audio, and anything else chat-wise as well. Again, a reminder, as I mentioned, there is a way to privately send a chat to me. Again, if you don't want everybody to see it, if you don't care everybody sees it, then you could obviously send it to everybody. So just keep that in mind as well when you're doing that. As I mentioned before, all of our meetings will just sort of automatically record. Usually what I do is, you know, really the lecture component usually will get posted onto our Canvas site. Usually they'll probably be hosted, the videos, on YouTube or something like that. So Jen, just a reminder, as we talked about earlier, I believe the way it is set up is that pretty much only the active speakers video gets recorded. And like I said, probably most of the time that will be me. But again, if we do use the microphone or something like that, just to give you a heads up, your video may be recorded as well as obviously your audio and stuff like that. But I would anticipate that most of the time, I think it will probably just be my face on the video along with whatever we're sharing and stuff like that. But obviously keep that in mind. Again, the videos, as I mentioned before, are just a courtesy for you to review. They are not to be used in place of actually showing up to class or anything like that. All right, so let's get into the actual class now. Again, it does start at 10:30. There is a schedule at the end of the syllabus here, and then also on our Canvas side. So you really should know exactly what's going on every sort of lecture, every day that we meet. There really should be no surprise or anything like that. The book, again, is that Introductory Chemistry 9th edition. For the most part, how lecture is going to happen is obviously just like this. What you'll see on the screen, hopefully, is not just the syllabus, but you'll see the PowerPoint presentations. On our Canvas side are the PowerPoint slides. So again, if you want to download those and sort of take notes as we go through it, I will probably be using those same slides up here and writing on them and stuff like that as we go through them. So again, you can find the actual slides up on our Canvas site as well. And again, you can use those as we go through it. Like I said before, in terms of the tutoring and the question that was earlier, I do believe that we will have some sort of tutoring. Again, I haven't got any confirmation on it. And like I said before, I think as of last week, they were still trying to determine sort of how they're going to sort of do that. But I do anticipate some type of tutoring. I think Dr. Bear is the person in charge of that, so she was saying that. Obviously, this is a web-based class. Essentially, everything that we do, other than sort of the lecture part, if you will, which is still you could get through our Canvas site, everything will run basically through Canvas. So obviously, checking Canvas regularly, that's where you're going to find everything. That's where you're going to upload everything, all those files and stuff like that. So it may be very helpful to you. Obviously, there's the help if you do need any type of help with Canvas. You could call the help desk. There's also, I think, a website there here on our syllabus that will help with the any type of problems that you may have. It may also be very helpful for you to have the Canvas student app if you don't have it already on your phone. My understanding as well is it makes uploading pretty easy because most of us will use probably a PDF scanner there on your phone. And if you have the app, I think you can almost just go to their app and pick the thing and it uploads it pretty easily rather than having to maybe move it to a computer and stuff like that. So having the student app, my understanding is pretty helpful. So you may want to obviously download that and have that available to you on your phone. Again, may make everything a little bit easier to do. Now, in terms of attendance, as I mentioned, you do need to attend everything. If you miss more than 6 hours of both lecture and our lab, again, you may be dropped from the class. If you're past the drop date or the last drop date and you stop showing, obviously there's nothing much I could do for you. You will get probably an F in this course. Again, if you took some classes in spring, there was a lot of options in terms of things that could happen in terms of your grade at the end. And again, I do believe most of those options was because we started in person and ended up online. So I anticipate definitely in the summer and stuff like that, and starting now, there's not going to be maybe as many options in terms of, you know, maybe you could wait to the end and decide I don't want this grade at all or anything like that. So keep that in mind that, you know, everybody's coming in sort of understanding how the class is going to work. So there may not be as many of those kind of weirdish options, if you will, that we maybe had in the spring here in the fall. In terms of exams, there will be 4 exams, no makeup exams. You need to take them when they're scheduled. And exams will be proctored. So all exams will be proctored, which means we'll either do it one of 2 ways, either through Zoom. So we'll meet all just like this. You'll have your camera enabled and it'll be on you and your work area and your paper. And basically I'll watch you just like I would sort of if we were in person together. Another sort of way that we may do proctoring may be through Proctorial, which is, again, a computer proctoring program, which also requires a webcam and obviously a microphone and all that kind of stuff. In that case, you would go to use Proctorial. Again, I think I sent out some information about it as well. But to use Proctorial, you do need to use Chrome, I believe, and you do need to download the extension and all that in order to use it. So those will be basically the two options there that we will use in terms of proctoring exams. Exams will be mainly pretty much written, I think. There may be some multiple choice-ish parts, maybe some true and false type questions, but probably a majority of the exam will be written. So even if it is sort of a proctorial, sort of proctored exam, it may be done through Canvas, where there is some questions where you will have to show your work on a separate piece of paper and upload your work for those particular questions. So the exams may be a more traditional written exam where you get a PDF file when we're ready, you open it up, you take it, and you upload it obviously when you're done. The other way an exam may be is actually be done through Canvas, and the exam will be in Canvas. And again, there'll be some questions that you may have to show work for. There'll be some questions that you may not have to show work for. But whichever way that we end up doing it, there will be some sort of proctoring that will occur. The exams will be over multiple chapters, and it clearly tells you which chapters they are in the syllabus. We'll come to it pretty soon, but it does cover more than one chapter. So some exams cover 4 chapters, some exams cover 2 chapters, so it just sort of depends, but it is multiple types of chapters and stuff like that. In terms of obviously anything, including the exams and quizzes and work, you do need to upload, obviously these files do need to be uploaded as a single PDF file. And one such app that you could use here is Adobe Scan, and there's a couple of links to it. You do not have to use Adobe Scan. You can use whatever app you want, or if you have an actual scanner, you could use a scanner too. It don't matter to me. But again, that's just one option that you can use. It's free as well. And again, to do that, I am requesting that all uploads that you do is one PDF file with everything together, not 400 different uploads of assignments and stuff like that. So it's just going to make it a lot easier. I'll be honest with you, on my end to grade and stuff like that. So it's just sort of a pain. There's like 7 different things to kind of click through and grade and stuff like that. So again, if you're not familiar with using these apps, perhaps you are or not, maybe, practice making some PDF files or something, just so you know how to do that. And you're not trying to do it on the first day. You have to upload something or anything like that. Again, like I said, if you miss an exam, you'll get a 0. Obviously, any type of cheating on anything will result in a minimum of a 0 and perhaps an F in the class as well. So these are tentatively when they are scheduled. It looks like we hit Mondays all the way through there. So these are our Mondays for our 4 exams and our chapters that they cover. And you can see for the most of them cover really 4 chapters and maybe a couple at the end there. And again, it may seem like a lot of chapters, but maybe not a lot of material in some of these chapters. So, it's not like a ton of stuff in every chapter. So, there's some big sort of calculations and stuff that we do. For the most part, usually in this class, we're pretty good. We're pretty able to sort of stay-ish on schedule after the first day here. So I don't anticipate probably that these exams will move very much in terms of their dates. At worst or best, I guess, depending on your situation, they may move a little bit back a day or something like that, but they're probably not going to move tremendously away from everything, in terms of those dates. So you could probably pretty much guess that they're going to be on those dates, and you'll know exactly what it's on. Homework here, again, we talked about, again, the OWL part of it. You could kind of think of it as just like you opened your textbook and did out the end of chapter sort of problems out of it. And that's, again, basically what OWL is. And again, that is the one of the 2 access codes that you need. They also will have due dates. You should, and if you want to take my advice, you should definitely keep up with the OWL. This is not a thing that you want to wait to the last minute and go, I'll just knock it all out like right before the due date, because you are not going to finish it. I'll be honest with you, online, it's not the greatest thing, homework. Everybody hates it, right? And it does take a lot of time to do and stuff like that. So I definitely would not wait to the very last minute to do it because you won't finish it. So with that being said, and I think I will continue this way as well for this semester, I typically make the homework due right around the day of the exam. So what that means is, for example, exam 1, homework for chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10, they will all be due somewhere around that date whenever exam 1 is there. I have too much on my screen to actually see the date anymore, but I think it's in September. And again, I do it for 2 reasons. It gives you a good amount of time to complete them, hopefully. There should be absolutely no emails sent to me of, I wasn't able to finish it. Can I have an extension? Because you've had an incredible amount of time to finish these problems and stuff in these homework chapters. So there should be no extensions or anything like that. So the lowest homework will be dropped at the end of the semester. So your lowest grade there will be dropped. And again, typically they'll be due somewhere around, I think 11:55 at night, something like that, somewhere around the day of the exam. Obviously, you should kind of be doing these as we go along. Again, it's just going to make your life a lot easier. Do not wait to the very end because you will be regretting it. Trust me. Yes. Now, they are going to be graded. So I guess what that means is if you ever maybe have used that before or maybe something like that, it's not like you just need to get like 80% correct and you get the full credit. So I believe they will be graded based on obviously correct and wrong and all that type of thing. So I think each one's 15 points, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. And again, the lowest one will be dropped. So again, something does happen, you're able to finish one of them or something like that, you know, you'll get to drop those guys as well. All right, so got jammed too far here. There we go. Quizzes. All right, quizzes. We will have quizzes, and they most likely will occur at probably the beginning of lecture or maybe towards the end of lectures. So maybe on quiz days, we may just stop lecturing a little bit early, and then for the rest of the time, you could take a quiz. Again, quizzes will be done the same way. It will be done through obviously either Zoom or it will be done through the Proctorial. And again, you'll have some type of proctoring on it. Quizzes will be announced, so there won't be any pop quizzes or anything like that. You'll know exactly what material will be on the quiz. So, and quizzes probably won't be super long, so maybe 3-4 type of questions, maybe calculation type based questions, a lot of them. So, you know, it shouldn't take hopefully all day or anything like that for that to happen. The final exam for us, I think we're shooting for Wednesday, December 16th. Never too early to think about that day. It's 10:30 to 12:30. And again, obviously the final exam will cover everything. So for us, I believe that is like 17 chapters, if I'm not mistaken. So it is comprehensive for the entire semester. In terms of quizzes, in terms of exams, in terms of that type of stuff, just so we're clear as well, they've really focused in on this class, the department, just to let you know, because they really do want you to be very prepared in terms of going into Chem 1A. So you pretty much will get just a periodic table. So there will be things as we go through the class, like conversions and stuff like that, that you are going to be expected to know, and things obviously when you get to Chem 1A that they expect you to sort of know by sort of heart. So you may not be given on some conversions and stuff like that, and typically probably for your exams, you'll get just a periodic table. And again, that's sort of a department thing where they really want to make sure that you are prepared sort of for success if you plan on taking 1A, which a majority of everybody here is usually planning on taking that 1A class after this. And they've noticed perhaps in the recent years that there's a lot of students that maybe aren't sort of prepared to take 1A. So again, they sort of cracked down a little bit on this class in terms of things that they expect you to sort of know by heart and things that, you know, you don't necessarily have to know. So just to let you know, that's sort of the information that you'll be given on an exam. It's kind of just a periodic table. And again, things like conversions and, you know, things like perhaps Avogadro's number, these are things that you should know as you go into Chem 1A as well. Cell phones and beepers, in case it's 1980 still and you could still see a beeper. If not, you could Google it. You should keep those things off during lecture and lab. Obviously, I shouldn't be seeing you on your phone like this, even if I'm really boring. You should not live tweet how boring I am or anything like that. You should save that for later. No, don't do that either. So obviously, most importantly, though, in terms of the phone and stuff like that, is a couple of things. Obviously, you shouldn't be using your phone or any other like device for things like exams or quizzes. You also shouldn't be using your phone to do anything like lab reports and answering lab questions. Just like if you were in person, you wouldn't be able to use any of those sort of devices. If we were in class together on campus, same thing here. You're not supposed to use those things definitely for exams and quizzes, and you really shouldn't obviously be using it to look up answers on lab reports and stuff like that as well. That's actually a problem in person as well. It always amazes me that I could be sitting right there and somebody will pick up their phone and try to Google the answer instead of like asking for help. So if you do need help on something, you should ask. And I'll be happy to help you. But again, don't be using your phone or any type of device like that to get those answers. As I mentioned before, in terms of the lab, again, the experiments can be found both on our Canvas page and also the website. And that's actually, this link here is actually the chemistry department's website on Saddleback. And you can find that there. If you happen to go through the Saddleback website here and the chemistry site, we're usually okay because our experiments are on top. But if you happen to scroll down the page, you'll find everybody's experiments for Chem 1A, Chem 1B, all those experiments are up there as well. So usually for our class it's okay because ours pops up first, but just in case you do go there, make sure you are printing out experiment 2 for actually Chem 3 and not experiment 2 for Chem 1A or Chem 1B or anything like that. You should obviously read the experiment before, even if you maybe don't understand it. You should understand sort of the procedure that's going on. And obviously there will be a pre-lab assignment for every experiment that we actually do. So you'll see 2 types of sort of experiments on the schedule. One is obviously called an experiment, and an experiment is obviously a sort of in a lab that you would typically physically use chemicals, do things like, and you'll also find some activities. And activities are also labs that we typically do in person, but they're more like worksheet type labs. So they're really just kind of worksheets and stuff like that. So when you go to the pre-labs that are online, you will not find any pre-lab assignments for activities. So if the lab for that day is scheduled as like activity 9, then there is no pre-lab assignment for that. Usually it's really only the ones that are labeled experiments. So I think somewhere in the middle of the semester, we hit like a 2-week window where we're just doing kind of activities rather than technically actual experiments and stuff like that. And again, you won't find any pre-labs for those guys on those days. Now, in terms of pre-labs, you need to do a written pre-lab. Each experiment will require a 1-page minimum, typed or handwritten, that since you're not physically doing the experiment, at least show me that you read the thing, to sort of outline the experimental procedure. Don't rewrite the procedure in the lab manual and plagiarize it. Try to write it in your own words. Again, doesn't need to be complete sentences. You could also make sort of a graph flow chart type of, or an outline of the procedure. Again, you need to include this with your lab report when you turn it in. These are obviously for ones that are labeled experiments. Obviously activities, really there is no procedures. They're really just worksheets and stuff like that. And then there's also the online pre-lab assignments. So that's the lab skills. And again, that's the second one that you needed that code for that you will has to do. Pre-lab assignments need to be completed like they're called, pre-lab. So definitely the OWL pre-lab needs to be done before the start of that experiment. So what that means is they are all due, the pre-lab assignments are all due at 10:30 a.m. the day of the experiment. So 10:30 a.m. is when our lecture starts. So you should have hopefully completed all that before lecture starts for that day, so you're ready to go. So that is when they're due. They will not be extended. You will not get a second whack at it. And if you do not complete it, you will get a 0 for the assignment, the actual experiment as well. So make sure that you do complete the pre-lab for that day's experiment by 10:30 a.m. And kind of like in person, technically speaking, if you did not do the pre-lab, you would not be allowed in the laboratory to actually physically do the experiment. So it's kind of the same idea here. And again, this is the online pre-lab questions. You need to make sure that they get completed before the experiment. I'll be honest with you, I made everything available. So if you want to knock them out, you can, or you want to kind of do them a little bit ahead of time, they are available for you to do. If you want to kind of pre-read, maybe knock out a couple weeks at a time or whatever, just so you don't forget to do it or anything like that. You know, you could do that, but you do need to make sure that they are completed at 10:30 a.m. before the day of the experiment. Otherwise, technically speaking, you will get a 0, not only for the pre-lab, but the actual experiment as well. Now, when you look at the labs, there will also be some post-lab type questions. So if you look at a lab, we'll see one here maybe in a bit when we get to the lab, but there's basically an introduction to the experiment. There's basically the written procedure, and then there's basically a data table typically where you fill out the information as you do the experiment. There's a calculation boxes where you do the calculations. And then there's usually, depending on the experiment, maybe 2 or 3, sometimes 1, sometimes are a lot more post-lab type questions, which are obviously based on the experiment that you could answer. So when it's all said and done, the lab report will be worth altogether 25 points, including the pre-lab, participation, data collection, calculations, and post-lab. You're obviously going to be graded on accuracy, right? And correct answers. If there happens to be some unknowns, the correct identification of unknowns and stuff like that. So you will be graded on that as part of your grade. So when you're done, these experiments, just like they would be in person, will be due typically in most cases the same day. So, and that means when lab is over. So our lab is over at, again, they moved that, I think it's 1:15-ish. So somewhere around 1:15, 1:30, you know, it will be when officially the lab would be due. Again, just like if you were in person, you typically finish the experiment, turn it in at the end of the lab period, and then you could leave, you know, when the lab is over and stuff like that. So online here, it will work the same way. In terms of the labs, there are videos for each of the labs. We will watch the videos together. We will stop the videos, kind of talk about certain things if we need to. You then will obviously go on and work on the experiment, do the calculations and all that, and the post-lab questions, and then upload it when it's all said and done at the end there, somewhere around 1:15, 1:30, if you somewhere in that ballpark. Here's that information about the lab manual. Again, if you want to get it from the office max, again, a reminder that you do need to email them. You can't just walk in and ask for it. So do follow that instructions there. All right, here's the tentative breakdown of grades. Quizzes, 20%. Lab will be 25%. The online homework, which again is one of those access codes that you need, is 15%. 20% for exams, 15% for the final, and class participation will be 5% as well. So again, you need to make sure that you show up on time. And again, a reminder that for roll, what we usually will do for both lecture and lab, kind of the first thing you want to do when you log into this Zoom meeting is you want to just basically in the chat box type here. And obviously, hopefully you logged in with your correct name. If you didn't by some chance, obviously make sure I know who that here goes with. But I will have a record obviously in the chat box when you do that. And again, we'll serve that as roll. And again, if you miss too much, you may be dropped from the class. And again, if you miss too much class or come super, super late every day or whatever, just pop in for like 2 minutes or something like that. That is not acceptable either, to just kind of, well, I was here for the last minute of class or something like that, or I logged on for the first minute, typed here and left. That is not good either. I can't keep track, obviously, of who's been here the whole time. So make sure that you do not just like pop in, type here and leave and go, I think I'm good for the semester. You will get affected, obviously, as part of your grade as well. Overall cutoffs is pretty straightforward, 90, 80, 70, 60. May not end up being there in terms of those cutoffs. They usually will come down a little bit. How much, I really don't know until I sort of do final grades and everything like that at the end, and what sort of justifies or doesn't justify how far we go. So I would definitely say if there's a particular grade you're shooting for, try to get yourself up and over that cutoff. You don't have to worry about it. If you can't, then definitely try to get yourself as close as you can to that cutoff, and hope for the best and stuff like that. And again, not necessarily set in stone, but again, they won't drop anything crazy like an A won't drop to like an 82 or something like that. So it may come down a little bit, but how much I'm not exactly sure at this moment. Academic dishonesty, again, you are obviously supposed to not be academically dishonest, right? And that goes for a lot of stuff online here. And again, major things as we've talked about, you're not allowed to use any type of notes, electronic devices, recorded lectures, any of those type of things. Obviously, when you take exams and quizzes, any violations will be a 0. You're obviously supposed to do your own work, including lab and all that kind of stuff. Again, if you're sort of, if we do break out into maybe breakout rooms or something like that, where, you're in a room with a few other people and you're maybe working on it together, again, like normal, it's okay to work together. You're then expected to sort of individually write your answers and stuff like that. Just like if we were in person, it would not be okay if you just took somebody's paper and just copied it straight down word for word what they wrote. So it's the same idea. Again, if you're allowed to sort of work together in terms of collaborating and stuff like that, that's fine. But again, it should be your own work always, whatever you sort of turn in. Student services, again, if you need any sort of DSPS, there's the sort of contact information. Again, you can privately let me know about that and accommodations, and we'll do our best here. Important types about dropping. Again, it's your responsibility to sort of drop the class if you feel this is not the right class for you. It's not the good semester, things aren't going right. Obviously, you do need to get out by the appropriate date. So I think without a W is the 7th of September. With a W is October 30th, it looks like. And as I mentioned before, typically if you're still in the class after October 30th, there's not really much I could do other than give you a grade. And obviously, if you stop showing up, stop turning stuff in, it might not be the greatest grade. So make sure that, it happens, things change, if it's not good for you, make sure you do get out by that. Obviously, I guess one sort of nice thing about everything being online is for the most part, you could kind of look at the grade book there and Canvas and have a pretty good idea as in terms of where you are in terms of grade and stuff like that. Will be perfectly 100% accurate. I'm not 100% sure it'll be exactly perfectly on the nose, but it should be very, very close to probably where you are in the class and stuff like that. Again, the Canvas does some different calculations sometimes on things, but it should give you a pretty good idea. Here's just some ideas about how to kind of succeed in the class. There's some things you should learn in the class, hopefully. And here's a schedule of both lecture and lab. And again, like I said, it goes all the way through. So you should know exactly every day, sort of what we're covering, what we're doing. And you can see already we're behind. Good day, first day. We'll hopefully catch up there. But again, we have our lecture and then our lab and all the way through. And I think for us, we have just one holiday maybe. There will be some days, as you can see, where there is not a lab scheduled, and that happens as well. To be truthfully honest with you, it's sort of a master schedule, and some instructors give like something crazy, like 7, 8 exams or something throughout the semester. Seems like every time you turn around, you take an exam. So there's usually give the exam sort of during lab time, and so that's why we have some of these days where perhaps there's not an actual experiment scheduled and stuff like that. So on those days, we typically will do something. We may work on worksheets or something like that. We may review, we may just continue lecturing a little bit and stuff like that on those particular days. So you still need to show up on those days that we don't have experiments scheduled. I think this might be the only holiday we have. We may have, I think we may have 2. So we have one in September. And again, you can see when the exams are there. And I think we have another one in November. I think we get that one as well. So again, I won't go through each of this individually. You could go through, but again, you should definitely know exactly what's going on in terms of the class and what's happening there. I guess we do get the one in November as well. So we got a couple holidays sort of happening, and then our final over here. Here are some additional homework problems. So just to be clear, at the end of the syllabus here, these are not going to be sort of collected. They're not going to be graded or anything like this, but these are actual problems out of the actual textbook itself. So, excuse me, if you would like, some extra practice, those are some that you can do. Again, you don't have to do them. You don't have to turn them in if you just want to work them out. Again, the official homework is the OWL. And here are the sort of long instructions on how to get OWL and all that kind of stuff. And there's two different ones here. This is for the homework, and this next one is for the lab, I believe. So you can see on the right there, it says lab, the top one says OWL, and again, that's the homework. And so here's the instructions as well. And there's also instructions again on our Canvas site. Any questions on the class or how things are going to sort of happen here that I can answer? So I just want to be clear because it has happened oddly, even though I've said it many, many times. There is two different OWL access codes. One, again, is equivalent to textbook homework, like the end of the chapters, and one is equivalent to pre-lab questions. And I only say that because it's happened as recently as the summer that I taught here, like a week or two ago. Kid went the whole semester and at the end said, oh, I didn't know there was like a second online homework. I thought there was, just the pre-labs or something like that. And I'm like, well, I've mentioned many times and also reminded you throughout the semester that, hey, don't forget about the homework. So again, make sure that you do understand that there are two different ones. Any questions or anything like that that I can answer in terms of the class? Okay, so let me just stop that real quick. And let's see what we got here. Let's see. Let's go here, I think. Okay, so you should hopefully still be able to see it. Just want to kind of go, since we got like a little bit of time here, we'll just kind of go through some of these things just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Hopefully you could still see this, I hope, yes. So this is our Canvas site. And again, this Canvas site is, so this is pretty much where you can find everything. If you haven't done so already, hopefully you saw the announcements, but make sure that you go to the announcements page. And again, here's all that information that we were talking about in terms of our Zoom meetings and where you can find them, our lab, and this is where all the announcements will be. So, if maybe, I know my email personally from school and stuff has tons of stuff that come in there. I can't even identify who's who anymore. So it's always a good idea just to check the announcement page. They stay on here forever so in case you didn't miss an announcement or anything like that. Pretty much everything will be in the module section. And if you go to the module sections, again, this is where you can find the links to where we just are right now in our lab, our lecture one. This will be the link for the lab. And again, I will paste in there basically just a link where you could just go here, obviously, and click, and that's obviously how you got here. I'll have obviously the data and information and stuff like that. Let's see here. Here are some resources. Again, here's some instructions for specifically Adobe Scan, I think, and how to use that maybe in your Canvas app to upload assignments if you need. Here's some virtual backgrounds in case you'd like to use some for our lectures and stuff, or as well. It's a nice way to see the school as well in case you haven't been there. Here are also the instructions for doing the OWL. So if you click on this, this will give you both the link to get enrolled, and this is the course key. So sometimes you'll be asked for the course key for both the OWL and also the pre-lab lab skills. And so this one here, I believe, is for our OWL homework. And I believe this one here is for our lab skills homework. And again, if you click that, I believe it will take you to, guess we'll see, but it'll take you somewhere. Oh boy, maybe if the internet wakes up. There we go. It'll take you here, and you can punch in that course key into here, and then you should be good. Again, obviously, as long as you've either purchased the codes, or you have an Unlimited account, you have a Cengage account, you may have to make a Cengage account. And when you do that, it should take you to, once you kind of register that with the course keys right here, it should, next time you sort of log in, it should be on like your dashboard. Mine looks different than yours, but I believe in your student one, you'll have like a dashboard when you kind of log in, and it will sort of show you all your products technically that you purchased and stuff like that. And again, you should see two of them, one for the homework and obviously one for the pre-lab. Let's see. And again, as we go through this, some welcome stuff. Here's the syllabus, and there is a quiz on the syllabus just to make sure you read it or went over it and all that. So just to make sure you understand all of the aspects of what you're getting into. You do need to take the syllabus quiz. I think it's by the end of the week. So make sure that you do take that. It's worth 20 points. It hopefully should be an easy 20 points, I would hope as well. It is time, but you should be able to knock it out. I would think it's not too hard of questions. If you read the syllabus or were half awake of what I've been speaking about here. Another one in case. Here's all the experiments, so you don't have to go to the actual chemistry webpage if you don't want to. You could just find them right here in our Canvas site to print and use for the lab, including, I believe today's is this one, by the way, just that's what we're going to do here is safety and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that one today in lab. Scrolling down here, here's all the individual lecture slides that we'll use for PowerPoint as we're lecturing. So again, if you want to take them and print them, however you want to print them, forward to a page or however you may want to do it, you could do that here, or use them for notes, you can do that. Now, the way the rest of the Canvas page is pretty much the module section is broken up is by weeks. So again, for each week, or if you want to kind of look at the next week, it's pretty much follows obviously the schedule that's in the syllabus. So you could kind of have an idea of what's going on. So you can see this week we're doing chapter 1 and chapter 2. We're really probably just going to roll into chapter 2. There's really not much going on in chapter 1, but we may just talk about a couple of things out of chapter 1 next time. And then we'll go into chapter 2. And then here again are the labs for this week. So today's lab is this one. Again, you'll find it here in another location. This is where you can submit the lab when you're ready to upload it. So I don't know if I put the due date in for this particular one, I will. But when you're ready, for example, you could hit submit assignment. And down what happens is down here, you could then choose a file and upload it and then submit it here. So again, very often people, for some reason, go and submit the assignments in the comment section. But again, just to show you that one more time, when you click on it to submit it, there's actually a button top right here that you click to submit. It then will give you down on the bottom left a place to upload it from your computer, and then you need to hit submit one more time, okay? So make sure that you're able to obviously do that. You'll get plenty of practice doing that if you're not familiar with it, because we pretty much are submitting everything online. All right, so like I said, pretty much by weeks, it is sort of loaded in there. That way, you definitely know what's going on. Here as well is the OWL. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 is listed here for week 1. This again does not mean it's going to actually be due on that week. It will be due on the day of the exam, but I did put them in sort of on the appropriate week to remind you to sort of keep pace with it and continue to do it, and not wait to the last minute. So again, if you kind of do that and keep up with it, you'll be good. Here's week 2 all the way through, and then you also even, I think somewhere in here, here's even the exam. By the way, the exam is not there, in case you're curious. If you do find an exam there, it's not the one we're taking, just so you know. But again, just to let you know as well, you could kind of use this as sort of a schedule and know, okay, we got the exam coming up. You could do those things. So all the way through, pretty much everything like that, it's up there, and you can really have an idea of what's going on. Some other things over here, obviously grades and stuff like this. This again is Proctorial, in case you haven't done it or looked at it. Again, it kind of walks you through what you need to get for the computer proctoring part of it. And again, we may use this as the proctoring for our exams. So you may just want to kind of get it set up, obviously, before, you know, we kind of do anything like that, but just to have it good to go. The rest is pretty self-explanatory, I think. The Confer Zoom is another place where you can sort of link into our labs, our Zoom meetings and stuff like that. But if you just go through sort of those, the module section, you should be good. Now, when you do get to Cengage, hang on one sec here. So I'll just show you this. This is, again, I don't believe it's exactly the sort of what yours will look like, but you'll have a much prettier dashboard, I think, than mine. But for example, here's our lab skills, and this again is the pre-labs. So if you click on like assignments here in Cengage, you can see where, you know, here's all the experiments, how much time you have, and sort of the due dates when they're due. You can see they're all 10:30 a.m. in the morning. And again, when you're ready, you could hit take, and obviously you could start the assignment and submit it and all that good stuff as you go through it. And again, depending on the experiment, maybe 10 questions, maybe less questions. You know, some could be true, false. There may be some calculations. There may be some moves, some things and stuff like that. And again, this particular one here is the pre-lab one, which are like your pre-lab assignments. And again, these are the ones in terms of date-wise need to be done, you know, the day of the experiment by 10:30. Otherwise, again, you can just knock them out because they're all sort of available. Any questions on anything in terms of the class and stuff like that? Okay, so just a reminder again, you do have to have camera enabled and all that throughout lecture and lab. So I see a few without them, so make sure you do have those on. And a reminder, make sure that you do type here for the role. And again, when you first get here. Any questions? Let me see, give me one sec here. So there's a question about Unlimited and how much it costs. To be honest with you, I think in that announcement that I sent out, there was a flyer with a website. If you go there, I think it does depend on sort of the time limit. So I think that's how they sort of sell it now, the Unlimited. They sell it for like a 4-month period, which might get you through 1 semester. I think they may even sell it for a year or maybe 2 years, and that might get you through a few different classes and stuff like that. So I think there's a different price point depending on, for the Cengage Unlimited part, how long you sort of take the subscription for. So it will sort of vary in terms of that. Other questions on that? Okay, other than that, that's lecture for now. So we got about a 15-minute break, and then we're going to do, go to lab. So make sure that you do come through the lab link. So that's not the same one that we just used here. Make sure you come through the lab link. And we are going to do that first lab, which is basically safety and stuff like that. So make sure that you print it out and have access to it, because you will need to turn it in. I think there's some math type problems on it, review math type problems that you'll have to do, okay? If there's no other questions, good to see everybody. Make sure you did type here, and I'll see everybody in about 15 minutes using the lab link, okay?